Welcome to the Capitol Theater Conversations, Industry Edition. This series of educational and informative offerings is made possible by the generous support of our sponsor, the law firm Capuzzo-Leidy, PLLC, with additional support from Baker Boyer Bank, Fresh Hop Group, G.H. Moen LLC, the Moen Family, Red and Carolyn Ramsey, Yakima Sunrise Rotary, and from donors just like you.
Hello, one and all. So great to have you back for another Capital Conversation, Industry Edition. This Industry Edition is a little bit more personal because I have the great opportunity to present a really fine artist who happens to be my sister, Kat Halbert. Hello, Kat.
Hey, Charlie.
Kat, you are based in San Francisco. Grew up in St. Louis, but you are based in San Francisco. Tell me a little bit about sort of where you're working now, what you're doing.
Well, currently I'm working at a company called Group Delphi, and they work on trade shows, museum installations. So for visitor centers, science and natural history museums. They also work on, currently we're starting to do some work on alternate dwelling units actually during this time of quarantine, because we've kind of got problems with places that don't have the social distancing like the museums and the trade shows. So I run the paint department there, which is a little bit different for me. Normally I'm doing a little bit more creative. This is a lot of fast-paced, really good quality paint jobs, larger things, some even furniture pieces, which I actually love. I've done a lot of different stuff in my career.
Yes, you have. Well, and let's talk about that, because that's exactly one of the reasons I wanted to have a conversation with you specifically, is because one of the things we focus on in this particular series of conversations are the people who are creatives, the people who have spent their careers gigging, who have done all the various things that one does to bring in a salary or an income. Now, when we met, you were working for a specialty organization and you were the paint department for a company that had the license for anything that was basically Charles Schulz related. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I did Snoopy and Charlie Brown and Scrooge McDuck and
and this was keychains and ornaments and anything that was like three-dimensional.
Well, and it wasn't just Charles Schulz. It was, we had the licenses to a few other well-known brands. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that animated, stop-motion animated show. I worked on the toy line for them. We also did McDonald's Happy Meal toys. Everybody will know that. So I got to work on 100 years of Disney. I got to sculpt and also paint a number of the pieces, I mean, really well, all of their whole line of cartoons and animated movies that they've done. Bambi, Cinderella. Also, I worked on their Kellogg's premiums. So little things that go in the cereal box when they did that.
So you were the paint department.
I was the paint department. I worked on paint masters. They'll send those off for fabrication. They send them to the factory and they use that as the paint master. That's what they make the spray, the little spray friskets for. They mask them and they spray those.
So even though it was made in China, the prototype with all the paint coloration came from Kat Halbert. Yeah.
I still see them at flea markets on occasion, sitting in the little bin with the toys. Yeah, people love the Happy Meal toys.
Well, and by that time though, you had already racked up quite a number of museums, both far and wide, for which you already had materials on exhibit.
So the company that I worked for prior to that company that you're speaking of, they did museum fabrications for science and natural history museums. And so when I got the job there, I was working on, dinosaurs, tiny fish, everything. People, I was doing life casts of people and sculpting faces, and we do rocks, everything you see in a science and natural history museum. A lot of people don't know that, you go in there and you see it and it all looks completely done, but there's like a whole team of people that spend months and months making a fake rock.
Well, and especially because most of those museums had so significantly shifted for anything that looked like taxidermy.
Well, and instead of the taxidermy,
Yeah.
they would have us sculpt them. Sometimes we would go about it with a taxidermy form, start with that, and then you'd sculpt on top of that in either, sometimes a clay, epoxy clay, or even sometimes a fur. We'd make it like a fake fur taxidermy. And the reason is that they have these beetles that really want to go for any of the actual taxidermy. So the ones that I would make would last a lot longer.
Yeah. Well, I remember you were working on a project after we met, in which you were actually contracted to make a life-size mountain gorilla for a museum.
Well, actually, that was
zoo.
for the San Francisco Zoo.
And I remember, this was as bigger than you kind of thing,
The life-size mountain gorilla is bigger than a person, definitely.
Now, and so what's the material that you're using when you're sculpting something like that?
So when I'm sculpting something like that, you have to take into account where it's going to be with any piece that you sculpt. So if it's an exterior or an interior, you have to be careful for environmental reasons. So in this case, I was making it for exterior. And so the final coating that I put on it was a combination of cement, basically, and they add fibers to that and sculpt it just like a clay. You can get cement to actually apparently make fur. And inside that is a styrofoam base that I started with. And then I just build on top of that. And so it's all additive sculpture in that case for anybody that understands additive versus subtractive sculpture. Instead of taking away like in a marble or wood carving, you're adding clay. So in this case, it was cement. Yeah. And dyed it. I used taxidermy eyes, and it turned out, I was really proud of that one. And they put it in front of the gorilla pen, and the gorillas that were there didn't like it. They were very upset because, in their opinion, it was a intruding male. It meant, as far as they could tell, it was an intruding male, a fully adult gorilla, silverback. And so they actually ended up having to move the sculpture, which I'm going to call a compliment.
Yes.
I must have done it right. So,
but at the same time that you were doing this massively large thing, you were also, in that same period of time, I remember, you were working with scientists in a museum in which you were creating the scientifically accurate, small scale, tiny, minute kind of sculpture for tropical plants. And I remember you having to figure out taking toothbrush filaments and putting the tiniest little bit of glue on the top to make a tropical plant that was like more or less a Venus flytrap kind of thing. I remember like the scale that you were working on was as big as a gorilla, right down to something you were using a magnifying glass for.
I've been very fortunate. I think I'm a little bit of a frustrated biologist. Frustrated, I love the science aspect of it. I love the really accurate making of these, super biologically accurate models. That one that I think you're talking about, I've done a couple of carnivorous plants. Certainly, I did one for the Academy of Sciences here in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park. I've also done one series for the Royal Ontario Museum in Canada. They had a whole bunch of casework where I had to do a cannonball plant, which is, I think that's the one you're speaking of with the monofilaments. Mm-hmm. What else would you make a stamen out of if you're sculpting a flower? I mean, these are weird questions that I end up asking myself. And I find that as I'm walking around in the world, I'll see a plant and I'll think, oh, wow, how would I make that? Or, oh, I'm really glad I don't have to make that. Some of them. It's a weird job. I never know what I'm going to be doing next, honestly. And you come along with even like a specialty, especially in the appreciation for birds. Oh, I love birds. I love painting them and I love sculpting them. And I've gotten to do a number of them for casework in museums. Kingfishers, I did a Mississippi kite. I I've done a lot of little vireos. Anybody that you know that loves birds, I have a bird watching friend, and we went to Joshua Tree State Park to find a phainopepla. Look up a phainopepla. They're beautiful. They're a little black bird with a crest. And we found them finally after looking around the park. This is a bird watching thing, though. See, this is part of the frustrated scientist, perhaps. But no, I love painting birds. I think I'm actually thinking of working on a new series of those, more of a fine art, more fine art painting style.
Well, and you have also then dabbled in that as well. You have actually been one of the participants in the 10 by 10 by 10 by tie-a-tin, in which you had both one of your bird sculptures as well as a beautiful painting that was intended to be a moth on wallpaper.
Yeah, I was absolutely really happy to be selected. That's a great show, by the way. I did the moth on wallpaper for that. I love nature and detail, and so I went crazy with that one. Little fur on little moth legs. I mean, who wouldn't love to paint that, right?
Well, but you paint everything. I remember your mom and I sort of had to get on you about the fact that you didn't paint unless someone told you what to paint.
I think I'm a born illustrator, actually. I went to school for illustration, and oddly, I ended up as a sculptor. I do both. I do three-dimensional as well as the two-dimensional work. But when I went to school, it was for illustration, and illustration it's a little bit different. I mean, a lot of it is commercial, and a lot of it is to order. And I think ever since I was little, saying, you know, what should I paint next? And you know, I'd go paint a giraffe, and off I'd go to do the giraffe. And I think that's still what I'm doing.
And you're doing the sculpting work, you're doing the painting work, and you're so respected for it. I mean, you have exhibits and pieces in, tell me how many countries? I mean, what are the countries you have? Is it Hong Kong?
I've worked on a museum in Guam. A lot of this is with teams, by the way.
Yeah,
I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of really great teams. But Hong Kong, Guam, like I said, North Carolina, so in the United States, Hawaii, all over the United States. So North Carolina, South Carolina, California, Louisiana, Hawaii.
A massive number of pieces and exhibit components in the Ross Perot Natural History Museum.
In Dallas, Texas.
Yes,
in Dallas, Texas. We did a lot of great work there. I did a giant carnivorous pitcher plant, a number of little mushrooms, little tiny, perfectly sculpted mushrooms out of foam. You wouldn't tell, though. Lots of fake trees, beautiful bark. We had to take a number of samples of bark, and that's how you make a fake tree, with plaster and these silicone molds of these very specific barks, because they're really very picky about which species of everything. These are all scientists, and they've been spending years saving money and getting money donated by, you know, wonderful people, just so that they have the opportunity to showcase these their babies, their, you know, plants, trees, rocks, birds, everything.
And all the background that you're then creating has to have that true realistic look. So your color matching and your blending and all of that comes in, you know, as the full backdrop to anything that is then in the front. It's like, here's how everything else looks so pretty. Well,
I think that's one of my strongest skill sets, is the color matching, color mixing. I just love it. I love it.
Well, and we all learned very quickly. Al and I, you know, understand that we can't paint anything in our house without getting color approval by our sister first.
Yeah, yeah. I do you for free, so that's great. You can get my interior design skills for absolutely free. No, I've just done such a wide variety of things, and I think that's it's difficult being an artist today. It really is. I think some artists, they will specialize. You know, they're the best pet portrait painters, or they're the best at, you know, whatever it is in their particular. I seem to just keep doing the new thing.
When your mother and I were pushing you to paint, you know, you wouldn't, so you finally took the challenge. You went to the grocery store, you bought interesting vegetables and fruit, and you started adding a psychedelic touch to all of this stuff that you
I
started
don't know about
painting.
psychedelic. I might have punched up the color a little bit. I don't know. It's difficult. It's the other curse of being an artist. You're either not working or you're not sure of yourself. I think any artist will tell you this. Is like, there's a insecurity because so much of being a creative is taking, here's me in a piece. Here's a piece of me. And do you like it? And that's horrible to do. Really.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you started doing that and you had an opportunity, the coffee shop down the street that you would, exchange artwork on their windows and on their chalkboards for your daily cup of joe. And they finally told you that you had to be the artist for one of the monthly exhibits.
I did a number of paintings, and as you say, of fruits and vegetables, and they went like crazy.
No. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
They sold out while you were hanging the show.
Yes. I sold 3 pieces while I was busy hanging. And in fact, I did a second show for them of camera paintings, and because I love vintage cameras. And I sold them while I was outside taking photographs of them on my front stoop. People walking by sold them. So okay. I mean, I don't know, humility aside, people liked them. So I guess I don't, you never know. You never know. But I'm happy about it. It's exciting. It's hard when, you're an artist.
Well, and then technology changes. And especially now with, so you've got your pandemic studio, set up in your home, and you're now doing painting. So now you have your Instagram. So Instagram is now a new way in which you're putting your work out there.
Yeah, and I've decided to give myself the permission to maybe post paintings that I'm not really all that excited about. I'm trying to relearn watercolor from years ago. I really enjoy every medium, but if you don't work with all of them, they're all different. So I'm posting some of my watercolor paintings, and maybe they're not the best paintings I've ever done, but it's getting me through this right now. This is hard. I guess as an artist and maybe slightly maybe more introverted, it's okay. It's easier for me. But when I go into a painting, I'm perfect. I'm exactly where I need to be. So that's how I'm getting through this.
Yeah. Now, everyone who knows me is trying to go, wait. You have a sister who's introverted? Let's be clear, everyone. She's Robin introverted. Okay.
Well, I guess, yes. Compared to you, yes. But no, I like it. I could pretty much set up anywhere. You just decide what you're going to do. I'm certainly not doing any large scale sculpture in my living room. I think my husband's happy about that.
The styrofoam just gets everywhere.
Everywhere.
So for the future for you, do you have anything that is over this next 3, 6, 9 months that is your plan to continue to be creative and challenge yourself to put work out there?
Absolutely. I do commissions. I'm working on some potential illustration commissions. There might be a mural in my future. We'll have to see on that. Mostly, I'd like to do a couple more series of paintings. Maybe select something that I really love. We were talking earlier about, what I've painted thus far, like the moth and birds. I really love the birds. So I think I'll do those. I also think I might just try and start just selling them as individual fine art pieces, which is, it's more uncomfortable to do that than to do more of the commercial work, because it's something that I've done because I like it, as opposed to being told, here, make this wonderful plant, and I just put my heart into it. That's a little easier for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, when you allow yourself to fully express your science nerd, That's
Yeah.
when you find your joy. I mean, you have the Boxo Beetles, and all the fun and lovely colors, and you've
I
got.
do have a little paraphernalia. I've tried my hand at taxidermy actually, which is pretty hilarious. I have a mouse.
Is he conducting?
Well, actually, I'm going to put a little sword in his hand. So, he died of natural causes. And
Okay, it wasn't the household mouse that
No,
scared
no,
you.
absolutely not. I mean, as I said, there's very few mediums that I haven't worked in. So.
Right. So you've been doing this for a number of years. Now, I'll be clear, you are my younger sister, so no dating of you. But you're also able to survive and have survived for quite some time as a working artist in San Francisco.
Yes.
So for other artists, aspiring artists, young people who are looking to get in the field, what recommendations do you have?
Get a benefactor. No. Well, what, I mean, Michelangelo did. No, I think really if you're passionate about it, if you really love the making, the doing and the making, then do that. And I feel like the money will follow. It's really difficult being an artist. So if you don't really love the making part of it, don't bother. This isn't about making money. It's really about doing the things you love to do and hopefully having a job. And also I found that never saying no to a job has always sort of stood me in good stead. If I didn't know how to do it, I would find out quickly how to do it. I think you should always undersell and overdeliver, but learning on the job is part of it, and you'll just build skill sets. That's for what I do, it's a lot of different skill sets. So there's carpentry and woodwork and understanding ceramics and fabrics. And so for the museum, I think that's what you'd need. But for illustration, just every day, draw every day, and just keep doing it. Just enjoy yourself.
And then you obviously in your personal life then throw in all the other things that are creative, everything from the bead making to knitting, because of course, for everyone who knows my knitting, it's her fault.
I started you on it. I taught you. I created a monster.
But it is very much a part of who you are inside and out. When you go to paint the room in the house, it's not as simple as it might be for others, because there's a way of doing it. There's a way that you approach your world, and there's an aesthetic that you surround yourself, which is always so clear because you are a creative. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know that, it's a little bit embarrassing when your brother asks you to do an interview.
It is, but I love you. So.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for really inspiring me so much, because so much of what I do creatively and now as a stress reducer with my knitting, as we said, is because of you. So much of the way in which I look at things visually has been so inspired by you. And I know that I have you to call upon when I need to. So thank you. Love you. And for all of you out there, thank you for coming and joining us. I hope that you enjoyed this interview as well. Share it with others. But above all, please stay connected while we are all mindfully keeping apart.